we have a double feature. We're so excited to have Jim Schramp from the Maker Nexus organization, and then and he's going to be speaking about Maker Nexus, and Scott's going to give a more thorough introduction. And then after, Jim delights us with all the really cool stuff that the Maker Nexus group is doing. And so glad all of you are joining us. All right, Scott, take it away.
Thank you. Well, it is really a pleasure to introduce Jim Schramp. Jim is a longtime resident of San Carlos. If the Plantation Coffee Shop was still open, you could find him there most mornings of the week, I think, from around 8 to 9 o'clock, as I've been there a number of times myself and found him. When the village was just forming, we needed a technical person to help us out, and Jim came to us. Somehow he found out about us, and so we met one day and had coffee together, and he volunteered to research software packages that nonprofits use, and he eventually recommended what we're using today because it's a very complete package. He designed our webpage, it got us moving, and he's helped out with a lot of technical subjects over the 5 years or so. Jim is, well, he's going to tell you about what he's involved in now. His time for the village has been reduced somewhat, but Jim, thank you. It's a real pleasure to have you with us, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. And I will put in a plug that the plantation is actually still open for outdoor seating in the morning, socially distant, where you can come get your coffee and go. But so they are still open. I think probably struggling like all businesses are these days. So can you guys all see that now? Have I gotten it up?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was gonna take 30 minutes to just tell you a little bit about Maker Nexus and what we did during the COVID, what we are first, a community workshop. I'll tell you a little bit about us, and then we'll do a little video virtual tour, and I'll talk some about what we've done during the COVID crisis to help out healthcare workers, first anybody actually who needed personal protective equipment. So I'll just say quickly, Scott, can you hear me? Is this going okay? Thumbs up, is that? Okay, yeah. Good. Okay. So Scott introduced me. I'm retired now, but I spent 20 years at Hewlett Packard, and then I spent another 20 years in a startup that I founded. We were going to be rich by islands. That didn't happen. so anyway, eventually retired. That company is still going, but I have less to do with it these days. But I was always somebody who worked with my hands. I mean, I love, a software engineer. You spend a lot of time sitting at your computer typing away, and there's a creative aspect to it, but it's all virtual. Rarely do you see something that, there's no physical manifestation to what we were doing. So I found probably 10 years ago, a local place that was like Maker Nexus, a community workshop, but it was a for-profit. And it was called Tech Shop. And I just loved it. It was like being back in high school with having where I am now, I don't have a garage, but back in the day when I had a wood shop, wouldn't even say I had a wood shop. I'd say I had a table saw. I had some hand tools, things I could play with, but I had lost those. And I found Tech Shop, and it was great, and I loved it, and it went bankrupt. And the day it went bankrupt, 6 of us got together and said, we got to do something because this is a great community resource. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what Maker Nexus is, and then we'll move on from there. So one of the questions is, why do we even need community workshops? In the old days, people used to have their own workshops. My dad had a big garage full of tools. I used to have a garage full of tools. But the tools today, even the tools we used to have, they're new tools today that are available to, they're something that they're so simple to use that they're sophisticated, but it's a tool somebody could easily learn to use in an hour. But they're also incredibly expensive, these computer controlled machines. So it's not something I would have even if I had a workshop at home. And at Maker Nexus, we have this belief that everybody sees ways they could change their own world in little ways or big ways. I mean, it could be a new Halloween costume. It could be a special door stop that works with your door. It could be It could be you want to just improve skills, do something different. You want to upskill yourself if you're still in the workplace, or if you're retired, you want somewhere that you can have a creative outlet, that you can do things with your hands like we used to do. So where are you going to get if you've got these ideas, where do you get the tools? Where do you training? Where do you practice it? You do that at a community workspace. So maker spaces allow people to improve the world. And here are some, I've been collecting over time products that came out of maker spaces where they started because they needed somewhere to do them. One I'll focus on is the Embrace blanket up there. That is, it was started by a group of Stanford students, and they were in a class looking for problems in the world to be solved. And they realized that premature infants need to get to an incubator, I don't know, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, or some quick time where a premature infant born prematurely has to get to an incubator or they die. And so they came up with this whole idea of making a blanket or some kind of a device that would be cheap, that you could distribute to places that don't have incubators nearby, like rural areas, even in the US, but around the world. It'd be cheap and easy. So the class was over, and the group said, I think we're going to do this. This is something worthy. They met at Tech Shop. That was when I was there, and they were trying to work on what this thing was going to be. And they had an idea that it would be a soft blanket filled with some material that you could heat up by putting it in boiling water. But their idea was it'll cool down, you wrap the infant in it, and you get them to an incubator. And out of that, when they were sitting in the makerspace trying to figure out what material to put in there, somebody at another table said, oh, he heard, Day was working on his own woodworking project. He heard them talking about it and said, well, like, have you tried P74R? And they were like, what are you talking about? He goes, well, I'm a materials chemist. I know these things. You need this kind of certain plastic stuff that would work. And from that, that synergy brought the Embrace technology, the Embrace blankets to being. And now around the world, you can take one of these blankets. If you have a premature infant, you put it in boiling water, it comes out, you wrap the infant in it, and you've got 4 hours to get that infant to an incubator. So there's a case where people are saving lives because they happen to have a chance encounter with somebody at a makerspace. But there are also little things. People making, Robbie Cuthbert used to make some furniture there. The Square, if you know Square for taking credit cards, that got a lift at the makerspace. They needed to make a little prototype. So these tools can really help, in the case of Square and Embrace, change the world. In the case of Robbie's furniture, it makes him a living, but it also gives people some great, interesting furniture. So that's our deal. We kind of say, learn, practice, share. We help people make anything they can imagine. So you don't have to know anything. If you've never used a wood shop or a 3D printer or a sewing machine or a serger or a laser cutter, we have classes that teach all of that. So we teach people from knowing nothing to being able to use the equipment safely, effectively, and without hurting the machine itself as well as themselves. Because some of this stuff is dangerous. When you think about a walking foot sewing machine, I believe that would sew my hands together if I put my hand in there. It's pretty big sewing machine. But if you need one, well, we happen to have 2. So that's a kind of nice place to do it. We're a nonprofit. We have 7,000 square feet. We have all this. We'll see some of the output of the equipment. And we also do STEM classes, a big part of our thing. We teach camps to kids 8 to 18. We teach them how to use, it's kind of like shop class you don't get anymore in high school and elementary school like we used to have. But enough of that. And I'll take questions at the end if I can work my time correctly. So this is what Maker Nexus looks like. We have 4 different areas at 7,000 square feet. On the left is our clean shop area. You can kind of see, this is a laser cutter. I'll show you what those things do, but we've got a textile area, 3D printers. We've got a full wood shop, a 40 by 40 foot wood shop. It's got all kinds of tools in it. We have a dirty shop, which has got a cement floor, and we're working on putting in some metalworking equipment, a glass kiln, vacuum former, some other things. And then we have an event room, which is available for community groups to use for free. It's not available in times of COVID, but I'll speak pre-COVID. A lot of groups used to come through and use our event room when they had a meeting. So it's a good way for us to expose people to the makerspace. It was also a good way for us to help fulfill our nonprofit mission of helping the community. So with that said, let's go see the place. I got to move let me see if I can move this out of the way. So we're going to take a virtual tour.
You want to come look at this?
With this handsome devil. So we're outside Maker Nexus. I'm wearing a mask. We're going to see what it looks like inside. This is in Sunnyvale. We're down by the Sunnyvale dump. That's the dump behind us there. But we're kind of showing this to our members who hadn't been in since COVID started. We were just reopening. We used to let people drop in, but now you have to have a reservation. You have to go online, make a reservation, because in COVID, we limit the number of people who can be in the shop and keep distance. So once you're in, you have to sanitize your hands, of course. I had been inside already, so I didn't do it again, but we have sanitizer everywhere. Or you have to go in and wash your hands, but we're trying to be very safe because I'm 65. Some of our members are a lot older than I am. We also have a badge in system so we can track who's been in the space. So if somebody was exposed, we could go in and say, who else do we need to alert from contact tracing? So over my shoulder, you can see the clean area where now we've used yellow tape to mark off particular areas in the shop. So people can reserve, like that table there is a table somebody could reserve. They could come in and use it for a couple hours with no one else in their little space. If you reserve the 3D printers, then you could go beyond that line and go back there and use, we have 4 3D printers back there to make stuff. We're going to we have now, this is a little older video, but we have a big plastic, piece, sneeze shield there to divide that table in half. So you could reserve the electronics area. We've got electronics bench with oscilloscopes and power supplies and soldering irons and a little work table. So one person gets to go in there. And then another person can use the textile area, which we've got a t-shirt printer, a heat press, a console walking foot, a big table to cut on, one of those self-healing mats now is in there. We've got a 16 thread computer controlled embroidery machine, a serger, all kinds of style equipment. And then these are 2 laser cutters. We have 4, 3 are available to members. We have each one of those areas is cordoned off. So if you were to reserve one of those lasers, you'd be just in that spot. And of course, I said we teach classes and all this. So even the classes are now taught 1-to-1 or 2-to-1, or 1-to-2, however you want to say it. But we used to teach 6 people at a time, and now the class lasts an hour and a half, and we're trying to do even some of it by video. So then we can go through this door, and this is our wood shop, which you can see is huge and well outfitted. God, we've got a lot of equipment. We can have 4 people in here at a time. So we've got one person can reserve that. In the far back there is a CN computer controlled wood lathe, a wood router. This is a lathe area. And then we've got 2 people can share the general wood shop area. Look at all those clamps you can have, the space, a table saw, cutoff saw, band saws, routers, chop saws, a bunch of hand tools. So really back there, you can make kind of anything you want in the wood shop. We have a little area there for a lunch air room, but that's not open during COVID. So even now there are more shields on the tables than what were available when I did this video. Probably need to be done again. But that's kind of Maker Nexus. So we were inviting all of our members to come back and see the place because it's been shut down and they haven't been able to get there. So I thought I would go to show you, I hope I opened this one as well. Things, yes, so here's an example to give you an idea of some of the things. These are projects our members have made. They're out on our website. I want to show. So this is oh, I guess I didn't expect that rollover. But on the upper left here, the tool caddy, that was done on a laser cutter. So the software is almost like, it's pretty close to PowerPoint. You've used PowerPoint to make presentations. And then you tell the laser cutter, I want you to cut this thing I've put together in PowerPoint. And boom, it cuts the pieces. You can glue them together. The wood shop, we've made this end table. We even had a project. This end table is part of a project with a place called the Bay Area Furniture Bank. people who are moving out of homelessness, when an agency places someone in a room or a home somewhere, they need furniture. And so they go to the Bay Area Furniture Bank and they donate furniture to them. But the guy told us a lot of the furniture that's donated to the furniture bank is big stuff, big end table, big nightstand. And he said these people are not moving into big spaces. They need little tiny things. So this little end table nightstand is one of the things that we made. And then we donate them to the furniture bank, and they in turn give them to people who are moving out of homelessness. So we did that as a corporate event. We had Hewlett Packard came in, and we had, I think, 8 people from Hewlett Packard making little tables that we could then turn around and donate. We said, if you're going to do a corporate event, team building event, you could go out and play miniature golf, if there's a miniature golf course anywhere left, or you can go bowling. But we said, why not come in and make for good? Spend your time as a team building event doing something that benefits the community. So, but there's an example here of the embroidery machine. Look at that dragon thing somebody did. That was all done computer controlled embroidery. On the laser cutters, we've got a class that talks about how to make these binder covers. We've got somebody made a telescope. We've got classes in metalworking, folded metal bracelets, this leather tool caddy, Halloween costume pieces, cutting boards that we make in the back, little robotics parts. I personally made this bookcase. I'm pretty proud of that. Didn't come out perfect, but it was, for my first attempt, I'm pretty happy with that. You can see this is a place where somebody used laser cutting and the textile area, and all of those designs on this bag were laser etched into the bag. So and the beauty with the laser is you can make one, or you can make 500. And this person happens to use them, sell them on Etsy. She has an Etsy store. So I'll just scroll down a little bit and give you an idea. You can always go to our website, makernexus.com or makernexus.org, and look and see all these things that people have made. But look at I'm just always amazed when I look at this page of the variety of stuff. Oh, I made this one ahead of myself. The variety of stuff people have made at a makerspace, it's just, so that's the power really of what we have. So I was going to talk a little bit about what we did when COVID started. We made face shields. This is kind of the capstone of it, which is Dr. I can't remember his name now. I cut off his badge, from Valley Medical Center, chief of, I don't know what, chief medical officer maybe. But this headband, when COVID started, there was a real demand for face shields to protect healthcare workers, and that you just couldn't buy them. They weren't available. So we ended up making this one. If you keep in mind this orange piece right here, but you can see it's got plastic that goes up over the top of his head, this orange piece, and an elastic band in the back that holds it on. So Valley Medical Center issued a challenge on Twitter. They said, we need face shields. Can't somebody in the Valley make them? Don't we have some expertise here? And our executive director, her neighbor is a Kaiser doctor, and so she started talking to her about it. And we found a design, our general manager found a design out on the web. It's this thing on the right, is a little rendering of it, but it's a plastic face headband that is made with a 3D printer. So we found that design. We made a couple of them, because with 3D printers, you can make things like this in a couple hours. We took it to Kaiser and to Valley Medical Center, and they said, well, this is good, but there were still little places where aerosols could get into the mask. And at first, it didn't have something over the top. And they said, boy, we can't have stuff, we can't have people coughing over the top of these shields, so we need some protection. So we iterated with them over the span of literally, I think it was 3 or maybe 4 days at the most. We changed design several times. We have an online, our maker community is online. We use an online tool called Slack that lets us communicate. So without being near each other, we got a group of people together who are Silicon Valley engineers, both active and retired, as well as just community members. And they iterated the design very quickly. And we print a new one and we take it to Kaiser. And that, I think, when we changed the design 3 times in a day, I think they said, Now that's, wow, how interesting, you know. I think they were used to making a suggestion and then, you know, 6 months later the company comes back. We're like, no, we're going to iterate on this right away. So we got the design locked in, we enlisted our members and started raising money, and we gave away 8,000 of these face shields. So that was when we knew, wow, 8,000. Now we're in, you know, now we know we're working. So we also kind of fortuitously found a local philanthropist who remains unnamed, but who wanted, we approached him about helping us with money because we managed to raise like $30,000 to pay for the first 8,000, but we needed more money, and we wanted to make them cheaper. We wanted to injection mold them. Anyway, in the end, we teamed up with this guy who said, I'll put in a lot of money if you guys will do the labor that's involved. You find the customers, you ship them, you put them together, you do all that, but I'll pay for the materials. What a deal. In the end, by the end of June, we'd given away 250,000 face shields all across the US. We shipped them to Philadelphia, we shipped them to Texas, we shipped them to Oregon, of course, all over the Bay Area. But that was quite a deal. And at this point, the need has gone away. It's not a crisis emergency the way it used to be. You can buy face shields on, now you can buy face shields on Amazon. Ours are reusable. You can clean these. Ours, I think, are a more comfortable fit, we've been told. So we're transitioning to selling them. We're still a nonprofit, but we're selling them almost at cost, and we're donating some of the money back. 10% of the revenue that comes in, we're putting back in to give face shields to people who can't afford them. We're selling them to doctors, dentists, got supermarket. At this point, anybody could buy them. But anyway, that's what we're doing until the need goes away, because we just can't. We don't have the resources to do it ourselves. So this is a couple of pictures. We have a lot of pictures on our website of doctors and nurses who sent in pictures of them wearing the face shields. That's kind of always good for us. And we're going to take a look at a report on us a couple of minutes from KRON. Let's see if I can bring up the cron. Oh, boy. Are you going to be able to hear this, Devora, or are we?
I don't hear it. No.
You don't hear it. Boy, well, let me see if we can get, let me turn this off to not bother me. I'm going to try and get ahead to where we have, so you can't hear what he's saying, which is too bad, but here you can see. So there's a picture. They did a press conference, which Valley Medical Center set up. These are the 3D printers actually doing some of the work to make those headbands. If you haven't seen 3D printers work, I could come back another time and talk all about this. Here's where you could see 500 people around the country were printing those out and shipping them to us in all different colors. That was a great thing. These were the actual plastic part cut on a laser cutter. And then those are some of the designs as we were iterating, but you can see them sitting there on the table. This is Sanjay Kurani, there he is, medical director at PMC. He was giving us said a lot of good things about us. And you see a buttonhole elastic in the back. We had kind of a problem even getting the material. Once we got going, everybody around the country was trying to make face shields. It was a great maker experience. Not everybody was as organized as we were, but it made it very hard to start getting materials. So. Okay, so that's what we did for COVID. So some resources in case you're interested. Our website is makernexus.org. If you want to know about us, if you want to schedule a tour. We used to do drop-in tours. We don't do that anymore. You have to schedule a tour, but we'll tour almost any time. You have to come, of course, with a face mask and be distant. If you know someone who needs face shields, if you know somebody who's a doctor or a nurse or a dentist or somebody working in a supermarket, we sell them, and we just filled an order for 500, so we'll do big. COVIDshieldnexus.org, and you can always email me if you want, jimshrimp@makernexus.org. So how about that? Right at. So
Excellent.
I'll take questions, or I guess I should probably unshare the screen at this point, get you back. So yeah, are there any questions or anything I could, I know it's a big group, but I could, take a minute or two.
I put one question down there in the chat. My question is, what do you charge people to come in and use your machines? And
Good question. So we have two levels of membership. The base, the normal membership is $150 a month.
oh,
So it's not cheap, but that gives you access to all the machines and all the equipment. And frankly, right now we have to pay $18,000 a month in rent, if you can believe that. I mean, it's what the cost. But we still lose. We have 200 members. We're a nonprofit, so our finances are all open. There's no secret about any of this. Nobody is. I'm a volunteer. I'm a volunteer. It's worse than a volunteer, my brother says, because I'm on the board. I pay $150 to be a membership. I donate money to the place, and I do all this volunteer work for them. So it's like my brother says, I'm paying to do the work. It's like I'm in a cult. But if we can get up to 250 members, then we get to be break even, and we could talk about lowering the cost of membership because we're financially stable. But it's actually for what you get, it's a pretty good deal. It sounds like. We also have a membership that's only $75 a month, and that gets access to the clean area, to the textiles, the 3D printers. It does not include the laser cutters or the wood shop. And in the old days, when you just needed a place to work, that was a better deal. Now with COVID, it's not. You can't just drop in and throw your stuff on it. We used to have about 10 tables set up. You can't just come in and throw it down anymore because of the COVID situation. So,
Jim, I'm
yes,
curious. Two things. I wanted to know, number one, do your folks sell any of the things that they make on your website? They're beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Well, some people sell through Etsy. We don't sell on our website right now, but we do try. Yeah, actually, I should update maybe on the webpage, I should some of those people who have sales sites, I ought to put links out to them.
That would be great because there's some beautiful things.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And with Christmas coming, we can't go out shopping, so it might be a nice way to support them and you.
I'll think about that. We used to do a Christmas fair, a maker fair, and we'd have a big party. We used to do actually even an open house once a month. We'd have hot dogs and let people come in and see the place. You can't do that now. And we used to do a maker fair. People could come in and buy things. So I'll take a note on that. Maybe we should. Yeah.
And how many members do you have, Jim?
So we have 200. I keep track. I also do membership. That's part of my deal. We have 200 members now. So, which is good. Not enough, but it is good. And we teach some classes to kids. That's another revenue stream for us. But in COVID times, we've had to scale that way back. So that's we're not making we're still doing the classes, but they're smaller and they don't generate as much excess as I learned to say. It's not profit when you're nonprofit, it's excess. So any other questions? I'm
If you guys can wave because you're muted. Oh, maybe I'm muted too.
No, I can hear you, Deborah.
Okay.
Well, so send me an email if you're interested. Peruse our website, see what we're up to. Be sure to tell if you have friends, sons, daughters that are nurses, doctors, dentists, beauticians, anywhere in the country, they can buy face shields from us if they need them. So, spread the word. Send our link out to them, let them know if they need them. We've got some high quality ones they could do, and they're supporting a nonprofit at the same time.
Great. Okay. Well, I think that's a great place to wrap up. This was so interesting, and I would imagine you're going to get some new members out of this talk. Since there's so much to explore and participate in at the Maker Nexus.
Well, thanks for letting me talk about it. I love talking about Maker Nexus. I've spent 3 years on this. We've only been open a year, but it was 3 years ago when Tech Shop went bankrupt and we started planning this. So we've been open a year.
And before we let you go, you should share the dream of what we discussed, that if anybody happens to know of a space, right?
Oh, well, our biggest expense, thanks for bringing that up, Deborah. Our biggest expense right now is rent on the space we've got. It's not that big, 7,000 square feet, but boy, it costs a lot. if, you know, our dream would be, this is, I think, really a community resource. And when you look at what we did with Faceshields, wow, we really made a difference there. And the Embrace blanket, Square, there's a lot of good things come out of makerspaces. I'd love to find a Google or a Facebook or an IBM or a Microsoft, somebody. I'm thinking in this time with this change that's going on, there's got to be a lot of excess office space or light industrial space around. I'd love to find somebody a company who really believed in the mission and could give us a space somewhere to occupy so we don't have to pay rent or pay less. And of course, those companies, all the members would be exposed to that company, great way to hire new people. All the kids would be exposed to that company's name. So if you know of someone who just happens to be the vice president at Google or Facebook or IBM or God, any other number of companies here, Apple, and they say, you know, tell them you guys should support Maker Nexus.
All right. Well, the bug is in all of our ears now, so we will be your champions.
Okay.
We happen to get in those conversations. So thank you so much, Jim. So interesting and really worthwhile. So good inspirational work.